Run.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Come on, Lord Cash. Our controllers are in our game room. We haven't put away.
I
Professionalism.
I was playing a video game.
Half the time, what this is you guys playing video games. He was prepping. We were
exactly
miscommunication of what the plan was for tonight. I think.
I was doing some research.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I expect a research paper on my desk tomorrow morning. Tell me what you're playing. Damn it! Too quick. Well, welcome to the Game Room Special Edition today. Where Bitteritz and myself, we are going to be sharing our top 5 Nintendo games from our collection.
Now, when you say top 5, define what it is that we're showing.
I was just going to ask you to do that. Basically, these are the games that are either the most valuable, according to like online things like a price charting or eBay with completed sales, or in addition, kind of ones that are just like very rare as well. So sometimes that actually increases the value in itself, as we'll see with one of the games here tonight.
So, in theory, is there like, okay, I'm going to reverse my question here. If there's a game that you have that's got high value, does not necessarily mean it's got a low rarity or a high rarity?
It depends, right? So to give you an example, right? The game Contra, made by Konami on the original Nintendo. It was a very high produced game. It's just what it boils down to is that the game is so popular. Gotcha. Even to this very day that it still, maintains a pretty high value. And earlier in last year, for the pandemic, video game prices just went through the roof, especially with the games that were not necessarily rare, but popular. So again, prices on a Mario Brothers 3, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, the aforementioned Contra, they went really high. As a matter of fact, Bitteritz, can you just check how much does Contra currently go for on the NES? Because prior to the pandemic, it was basically a $25 to $30 game at most. Now
it's $75.
Let's see.
Survey says.
So it has come back down to the $35 to $40 range.
Okay.
But like I said, it was going up to it's like 50 or 60 even like last summer. So it's coming back down. Whereas the true rare games, they went up as well. But those ones aren't going to really start coming back down simply because there aren't many of them out there.
Right. So as I was scrolling through either Facebook or whatever, I came across an episode of Pawn Stars where some guy came in with a 9.4 graded original Super Mario Brothers that was not shrink wrapped. It was what was the term?
Hang tab.
Pardon?
It's a hang tab, and they have like a little circle seal on it.
Yeah, there was something else like that, and it's like the only one of that caliber that they are aware of, and that's the highest grade. And the cat was trying to sell it for $1 million to the Pawn Star people, and they're like, I would love to get into this, but that is just not a price I'm willing to go with right now. So the guy ended up walking away with it. But the guy from the company came in and was like, yeah, I remember this one. We gave it a high rating. It's like the best of the best of the earliest versions of this game. So yeah, this is the real deal. But again, they weren't willing to invest that $1 million and try to get that, that price tag back on the other end.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to consider when collecting old video games, and especially for the Nintendo is, prices can be driven up based on those appearances on that show Pawn Stars, because Super Mario Brothers is Super Mario's Duck Hunt. Other than Wii Sports, those are the two most common video games in history because they're a pack-in game. However, original Mario, like just by itself, did fetch a penny, and part of it actually has to do with this right behind us. The original Nintendo that came out in the United States was actually the Rob. It was the entertainment system. And it came with Rob, the robot, a zapper gun, Duck Hunt, and Gyromite. Super Mario Brothers had not been released yet at the time that this came out.
Oh, wow.
So because of that, Nintendo did have to put a smaller run on just Mario by itself because there were some early adopters that were like, we want this Mario game.
But they don't want to get the Mario Duck Hunt combo.
Exactly, because they already had Duck Hunt. So that ends up being semi-rare, the Duck Hunt by itself and Mario by itself.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, so like also too, you have what's called the original line, what's called the black box games. And those were the first 24 games released for Nintendo. I can grab one in a minute. But basically those like that Mario's in that, Duck Hunt's in that. They're called black box because they're black boxes. And the art on it is just simply a zoomed in version of a pixel from the game. Like I said, we have quite a few of those here.
Just a single pixel from the game.
What?
It's a block.
It's the blue blob.
There's a blue block.
Gotcha.
So we'll talk about those things as we go through our show today. Another one of the things that you want to make sure that if you are collecting original Nintendo games is knowing whether or not they are real. Because it's incredibly easy to have fake games, basically, especially ones that are either super popular or just rare or both. Now, if you're looking at eBay, I will tell you one of the biggest giveaways, other than the price, is, I hate to say it, but if it's from China. If it is made from China, there's a 90% chance that it is a knockoff. Don't know why I'm not being let in. Okay. I don't know, Lord, do you happen to see the other screen or no?
It is not there. I was actually getting ready to send you a private chat that the nerd cam went away.
Okay. Well, either way, the bottom line is you want to get one of these guys right here. It is you can get a set of these different bits for different consoles, and you'll basically pay like $9 or $10 for these online. I feel like I'm in like a shop right now. So anyway, you have these like for Sega, you have these for different consoles and things of that nature, and it allows you to actually take a cartridge apart and actually look at the actual board. I'm not going to show you what this game is yet, but if you look at the actual cartridge right here, you can get an idea whether it's real or not. First of all, if you see like jumper cables on it, which that does actually exist, you know it's a fake game. Or big giant blob of solder, that is also a situation of the game has been hot wired onto the cartridge. Another way to know is basically if the board should be stamped by the company, typically either Nintendo, Konami, Jaleco, whoever is making the game. So again, you should be able to see right. My other camera is not working at the moment. But you should be able to see Nintendo stamped right at the very top. All right, so that's going to give you an idea that this game is legit. Also, if you're going to a store, ask them to try it out. Any store that's like, legitimate, they're going to have like an NES on display or in the store. You could throw it in there. You can make sure that you're actually getting the real deal. Because believe me, the prices that you're going to pay for these games, you do not want to go home, turn on the system, and find out that you got a copy of Baseball Simulator 1000 when it does say something rare. All right, so our first game that we're going to show today, I'm going to try to get the other camera up and running, though. It is Bubble Bobble Part 2.
Bubble Bobble Part 2. Now, I'm presuming that there was a Part 1.
Yes, there was. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's good. Now, is this kind of a bubble popper type of a game, like not a Tetris, but kind of like a reverse where you got to shoot the bubbles up to do that?
It's actually a side-scrolling game. There's a puzzle element to it, but you are Bub and Bib, I believe, these two dragons, and basically the idea is you're trying to clear the board. So you're bopping on the different characters' heads, but it's a one-screen game. And it said the first game was very popular in the series, so they created a second game, and this one was very low print run.
Gotcha.
What's the current going average for Bubble Bobble 2?
So based on price charting, the loose cartridge goes for around $455.
Nice.
If it would be about a little over $1,000 versus Bubble Bobble 1, which was it was much more common. That loose price goes for $19.
That's a big difference.
Yes. I mean,
Now,
I
do
think
you have to play part 1 to understand part 2?
no.
Okay, because these are important questions I need to know.
Yeah. And I think it is pretty typical that any of the games that come out later in a system's lifespan typically are worth the more money because they have lower number of cartridges that were run, or whatever it is, discs or whatever. So that's pretty typical.
So the ones that come like late, like towards the end of their time frame.
The end of the system's time frame.
Gotcha. They probably don't want to have. They know the system is getting to be retired, and there's a new system already on the way, so they don't want to have a bunch of these just sitting on the shelf, so they don't do as many games. Right? Is that the logic?
So yeah, because at this point the Super Nintendo was already out, replacing Nintendo's main home console.
Gotcha.
And like Taito, they were spending their time and effort on the newer consoles, whether it be Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo. So yeah, they still want to like take advantage of the existing clients, but yeah, not as much.
Now,
right?
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to have it sealed, it estimates for over $5,000 sealed.
Good googly boogly. Now, are these the grandparents to Yoshi by chance?
It's possible. It is possible.
I'm just curious what the family tree looks like.
Yeah. They're pretty cutesy characters. I think that there's a lot of people that recognize the characters more than they recognize the game.
Yeah.
Maybe if I saw like the actual gameplay, maybe I might recognize it, but at this point, I don't.
We could play at some point.
No.
Now, might be able to put it, but either way. Now there is when you guys mentioned about the games being sealed, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are some situations where very common games have very few copies known in the wild to still be sealed. One of the games that we actually own, it is a Pebble. It's Bandai Pebble Beach Golf. I can grab it over there in a minute too. It's a very common game. It's not rare in any fashion. The last time I had looked, and I'm sure that we're going to be, disqualifying the statement, but at one point, a sealed copy of it was basically, so normal complete price is $12. Sealed copy is currently going for $40. There was a point when it was going for a couple $100 in the course of this pandemic. But again, I think it was just because people wanted complete sealed sets of Nintendo, and at that moment, they couldn't find it.
Right.
But again, this is a game that like I don't think we even paid $10 for it sealed. Just we happened to get it, and we didn't open it.
Right.
So Bubble Bobble 2, though, like I said, is one of our top value games, especially for loose. Now, as you've been talking about, though, there is a variety. Sometimes they're expensive, and sometimes they're just super uncommon. Now, this next game was only available in very select areas. These were not officially sold in retail, and it is the Racer Mate Challenge 2. This right here was a special, almost program more than anything, and it was given to gyms across the country, selective gyms, and at Epcot over at Disney World. That's what I've always understood, right? These are not actually... Go ahead.
So no Pats, no Garys, just gyms.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the cartridge by itself looks a little bit different because it has this nub on the top. But otherwise, it looks just like a normal cartridge. You technically, right, you need this dongle to be able to play it. So the cartridge by itself, without the dongle, is going for anywhere from $175, $160, $220, and that's without this dongle.
Yeah, because what this game did was it actually hooked up to an actual racing bike, an exercise bike.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to be a specific Nintendo console because it was basically, it had like a hardwired thing in the middle of it, inside of it. And most of the reason why this doesn't show up very often is because even on Nintendo collection apps, this does not exist because it is not a retail game.
Okay.
So tracking this thing down can be quite challenging at times.
And we actually came upon it almost by happenstance or mistake almost. Yep. It was hanging on like behind the counter of a shop that we went to, and we were about to check out, and we basically noticed it, and we're like, oh, what's that? So the guy explained what it was, and we got it for a decent price. I mean, now it's going for, like I said, anywhere from $160 to $220. I think we paid
like $150.
$150, yeah. And that's with this dongle. So, you know, the price, the dongle by itself recently sold back in March for $75. So we got a pretty good. And
now, what exactly does the dongle do?
It basically it clicks into the actual the front part of the controller.
Right. So I saw the things in there. Those like the control ports.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. So basically, you put it in, it covers those up, and then there is there's outputs right here. These different outputs they go into the actual the exercise bike. They're basically the wires that go to the wheels of the bike, and you literally pedal the exercise bike, and it controls the action on the game.
So you're basically bike racing in the game.
Yep.
Did you need a specific bike for this?
Yep. It was designed for a specific bike, and also, like I said, a specific NES system. I've heard that the NES system could be easily just bypassed. Modified, but there is a stamp on the system that kind of identifies it's the RacerMate Challenge version. And again, it's just one of those things. Like, you know, very few people know that it exists. Even on our app, like I said, we had to actually add it as an exclusive title. And most people do not count this as one of the 715 games I believe there are to get a complete NES set.
Gotcha. Like, I'm trying to think, being that, you know, I've lived in Florida since 1990.
Yep.
And in the middle school and high school time frame of my life, it was very common to go to Epcot for a school field trip because you've got your countries. There's learning and stuff like that stuff there. So I'm wondering if, like, when would this have appeared at Epcot? Because I believe you did say Epcot, correct?
Correct. It would have been in the early 1990s.
Okay.
It was in the
Spatial Earth, right?
Huh?
Or Interventions.
No, it wasn't in Interventions. It was in the oh God, where's Body Works located? Where was
the Wonders of Life?
Yeah, it was in the Wonders of Life Pavilion.
Okay, so it would have been in there with like the Making of Me and Cranium Commando and all those other attractions and shows that were in that pavilion.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just wondering if I ever got a chance to do that.
It'd be funny if you may have had the experience with it for sure.
And yeah. I will say, I was looking up like the bike and stuff. This company has other systems, I guess I'd call them, set up that are in lieu of the NES. So it's like this RacerMate Challenge is a line of items, and like is like this little mini, I'd say like a computer kind of thing that, you know, can do the same idea, and it was like hooked up to a VCR or whatever. So there's a few different iterations of this, it looks like.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's the RacerMate Challenge. Our next game that this one goes back into the rarity category. Just like Bubble Bobble 2, another surefire sign that it came out later in the life of the system for Nintendo particularly is the sequel. So just Bubble Bobble 2 is very rare. So is Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers Part 2.
Right.
Now, did you ever have the experience or pleasure of playing either the Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers game on Nintendo?
I might have, but I don't. I may have played, if they ever like did a like a remastered version of it on something, I may have played that, but I don't know. I may not have.
They did release on the PS4 and Xbox One. It was a Disney Afternoon bundle,
right?
And this was part of it. They did not do a remaster. Our next game was done as a remaster.
So just to give you an idea, the first Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers on NES was worth around $23 on average loose, versus Chip and Dale 2 is around $300.
Okay.
And to give this is a great example of a game that really bumped up in price over the past year and a half. We purchased this game at a convention back in 2019, and we paid $150 for it. Now, we bartered for it. We went back and forth. But at the time, it was retailing for $175. So I talked the guy down a little bit, because we bought some other stuff from him too. So 150 was a steal. Right now, it is a grand larceny to get this for that price. So $150 for this, fantastic. It's nice. Is that on a Nintendo? It's not always common for expensive games to be good games.
Right.
There are some real junkers that go for a lot of money.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're probably just getting it for the item, not the actual game itself.
Exactly.
Right.
There's a game that we still don't have, but it's called Cheetah Men 2. Crazy expensive, like over $1,000. It is trash. You can't even beat the game. Like it's got some like fatal flaws in the game itself that does not allow I think it's the second world boss to spawn. So you have to use like hacks and Game Genie codes for it.
Yeah, loose price. That one goes for almost $1,500. That's the one that you saw that convention, right? He passed up on this game. How much was it?
Complete in box for $150.
Oh man.
Yeah. That was when we were just starting to get into the collection, and I didn't think much of it. I don't know why. All I knew is that game was trash at the time, and I'm like, whatever. So, yeah, instead, I bought a copy of Tomb Raider on the Sega Saturn to flip.
There you go.
That's what I did that day. And Bitteritz, just entertain us. How much does Tomb Raider on the Sega Saturn go for now?
Give me 1 second.
I'll just cover my eyes.
Yeah. While she's looking up that tragedy, I'm gonna pull up the next game that we have going on here.
Was it complete?
It was.
Oh, okay. So complete goes for $37.
Yes. I doubled my money on that. Well, I don't know what I paid for it. No, I sold it.
Do we have the manual for this one?
Not yet. You win some, you lose some. In this case, we won. We went to this one store. Still to this day, can't figure out where the heck we were.
Yeah, we have never found this store again. It was like literally the equivalent of like a shed or something. Like, I mean, it was bigger than it, but it just looked like this like normal shed building. And the person, this is the one we bought in the back room, right?
Yep.
They're like, oh yeah, we got some of those Nintendo games in the back room, like I feel like there was like a garbage bag of boxes that they let us go through, and we found DuckTales 2 with the box. No manual, unfortunately, but
that's the same place that I found a game called Mighty Final Fight that goes for $100 right now. Over that, at the time they had it in a $3 bin. I'm like, sure, because that game was like $50 at the time. I'm still like $3. Go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
DuckTales 2, fantastic game. The original one was very popular as well. Right now, the original one, I believe, goes for $15 or $20.
Styrofoam.
Yeah, it comes with that authentic Nintendo Styrofoam. So this one right here, again, very solid game. Capcom could do no wrong on the original Nintendo. And we bought this game. It was game in box, and we paid $50 for it. Now,
so it's hard to tell what it's technically worth with just a box, because it normally is like loose or complete. But loose, that's like $270.
Yeah,
no,
but
$280.
$270, $280 just for the cart.
Box only, which I feel like you'll typically get a better price if you just buy something complete rather than piecemeal, to be honest. But box by itself is worth even more than the game, around $315. The manual, which we don't have, but probably should invest in at this point,
I'm
is
trying to get it.
150. What's all the math here? Help me out.
Basically, complete price is.
No, but what are the piecemeal prices?
No, I know. If you piecemeal it right now, you get 260 plus 320, so that's about 580, and then plus another 120, give or take. So you're looking at like $700, right?
If we were to just buy complete, it's 622 is the average.
And sometimes we've done this with our collection in general, where like we get so close to it that we just go, you know what, screw it. We're gonna buy another complete set, and then we'll do the piecemealing and we'll sell these out separately.
Right.
Because the bottom line is, and good to see you today, 53004 dummy. Thank you for joining us.
5,300.
Could be that too. What is one of your big gets in your collection if you have one? So again, it's
Real quick, sorry.
No, you're fine.
DuckTales 1 loose, $24.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you haven't yet, I would try to play. So first of all, get the Disney Afternoon Collection on PS4. It's like $20. It's pretty fun and a hell of a lot cheaper than trying any of these carts. But one of the things that DuckTales 2 is actually most known for is not even the gameplay, though it's really good as well. It's the soundtrack. DuckTales has one of the most iconic video game soundtracks in the old 8-bit era, especially if you look at the Moon theme. The Moon theme is top-notch, very catchy, very well designed. Just good stuff all around. Now, the final game that we're going to show today on our video is another situation where it's a rare game, and the condition of it is really impressive. And I'm not saying it just to be kind of like a cool pat on our back. It's super uncommon to see this game and having the actual box for it. Now, this game is called the Maxi 15 game cartridge. You could only order this from catalogs. This was not a game that was in stores. If you looked in some like magazines, you would actually get a chance to see this sometimes. It was almost like a QVC type of game, right? Your grandma might have ordered it for you because she saw that it's like $50 for a Nintendo game. You get one, but for $150, you get 15 games.
Wow.
Now, these games were unlicensed games, as you can imagine. Now, what is kind of cool, and if you're a game collector for Nintendo, is that many of these were released as individual unlicensed cartridges. We have almost all of these as well, separately. The only ones that I'm aware of that were not released independently would be Stack 'em, which is in the red right there, and also what is that called? Actually, that is the only one. Stack 'em was the only one in this particular set that was not released independently of itself.
So it has a little. You pop open. We have the manual.
But that in itself, like we just talked about manuals for those other games, that's very uncommon.
Yeah. Just a black and white, has the little summary for each of the games. And there's a styrofoam cutout for the game itself.
Oh, nice.
Show that off.
And then here's the actual cartridge. Now this
and warranty card.
Now this company, they did the cartridges. It's the same shell, but typically their games were in blue. So they would actually do this cartridge in a baby blue color. What I always enjoy about bootleg, I mean, they're not bootleg, I guess, but they're unlicensed games. It's just like the weird things they would do on the card itself. So first of all, you have to press here. I don't know if you can really see that too well, but you press here on the actual corner of the cartridge. I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe that's where you grab it. I know the screen's kind of going very slow, so we'll just put it on the main, the large screen.
So that it says press here and a circle. And then they have these like little pieces of tape on the sides for some reason.
Huh.
So complete This goes for about $108. Loose, $54.
But and again, it's one of those things that if you were to actually look at the charting for this, is that again, it sounds cheap, but it doesn't sell very often because these do not show up on eBay very often. So that's one of those things that can be misleading, and that's where you have to kind of see with that completed listing idea, see when they sold last. Because when Roommate Challenge came into our lives, we looked it up online with the gentleman at the store. The last time it had sold was about a year prior. So they just don't show up. Maxi 15 is very similar. So you might say, look at them and say, oh, last time it sold was, like I said, a year ago for $100. But the person that has it might hold the cards because they might say, okay, go buy it right now. Go try to find it. And you can't. So you're kind of so you're kind of going back and forth on that. What's interesting, again, is, again, some of these things that go with the cart, I think it's just how they're designed. Like she mentioned, the little tab. In the manual, it says you can't reset this cartridge. Every other Nintendo game, you get the reset button. There's something that was programmed into this cart, probably illegally, that bypasses the reset button. It's always weird. There's some games that actually have a little, I guess, a dip switch on the back of the card as well. Did you show that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I showed the warranty card. So yeah, those are the top. So what is this called? The rarest? Because it's not the most valuable. We had this argument. What you consider, rare versus most valuable, and what the plan is for this. And I thought made an agreement, but apparently it was a one person agreement.
So it is the way it's labeled on the video is top 5 NES video games.
Top 5 rarest in our collection.
It's in my heart one way or another. Because it's
certainly not most valuable, and it's certainly not the best 5. Anyway, I feel like we could do a different episode with the most expensive and then maybe our favorites kind of thing, and share that, because those are all slightly different by definition.
Well, and like we said, the Maxi and the Racer aren't necessarily as expensive, but again, it kind of goes with what you can actually find. We have games in our collection like Snow Brothers. How often can you really
find Snow Brothers? I'm pretty sure Snow Brothers you can find just as easily as a Maxi 5 or whatever.
I mean, not in the store though. I mean,
15.
Yeah, because we have Snow Brothers. That's the
we got it in a store.
Anyway,
I think we got the Maxi 15 in a store.
I don't remember where we got that one, honestly.
I'm pretty sure it was in a store. I don't think I've ever thought to look that up or anything.
I think I opened the mailbox one day and it was just in there.
It was there.
Yeah, with a loving note from the mailman.
From an elf.
With an elf, yes.
Happens sometimes.
What was that?
So it happens sometimes.
Yes. So have you heard of any of those games yourself, Lord Cash?
The 1, 2, and 5, not so much. 3 and 4, I've at least I've heard of the game and the IP, but I necessarily was not aware of the 1 or 2, the second version of them. So,
gotcha. All right, he's gonna go grab the black box that we were saying earlier, and there's something else that you said you were
Pebble
gonna grab.
Beach.
Oh, Pebble Beach, to show off a sealed NES.
Ooh.
Once.
Yeah, wow.
What game was that?
Iron Tank.
So we found an Iron Tank sealed at a Salvation Army, and AllThatPat decided to open it because he had never opened a sealed NES game before, right?
I was too poor growing up. I didn't have Nintendo.
He didn't have Nintendo growing up. So let's see what that goes for. Complete. Sealed. So you should have opened the Pebble Beach over the Iron Tank. Sealed 103. It's a random amount of money, but 103 versus complete goes down to 30. And then I know AllThatPat said he wanted to show this unusual cartridge as well. So this is a 4-set game. Careful, don't fall. Quattro Adventure. And what's interesting about this is there's a little switch on the back, and you switch between
able to play or not.
Yeah.
Able to play or not?
it's a bypass for Nintendo security, because so the Nintendos had a safety chip that basically didn't allow people to make games unless they had the permission. Nintendo made proprietary cartridges, the great carts. They would sell them to the actual companies, and then they would program them themselves.
It literally says position A, position B, only use this position if the game does not work with position A.
Yeah, it's literally like saying, give it a shot. See how you can make our game work, because Nintendo
play
won't
around
let
with it.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
So yeah, Camerica was pretty well known for having that kind of a cartridge. So yeah,
I'm still not understanding the purpose of that switch.
Okay, so basically, here's the best way to say it. Right, you come up to a door in real life.
Hat analogy. Let's go.
And you have a ring of keys.
Okay.
You don't know which key is going to unlock the door. You keep trying it till it works.
Gotcha.
Nintendo systems were locked, so that way people couldn't just make random games for it. This company made bootleg games for the Nintendo.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it had 2 keys for you to try.
Yeah.
In your door.
So that's all it was. You're like, try this key. Damn, does it work? Try this one. It works. That's all.
Okay.
But it's very silly. There's a lot of like goofy stuff like that for the Nintendo.
So I think I may have not heard the bootleg. So that's technically that right there is a bootleg game.
It's an unlicensed game.
Okay.
You call them bootleg too, but this was actually put out by companies. They just didn't have Nintendo's seal of approval.
They just didn't have their permission.
Right. But they're making their own titles, though. You know what I mean? So it's not a true bootleg. It wasn't like somebody made their own Mario Brothers. So now the last thing we're going to show tonight is the black box games. And we have 2 copies of this black box game, and it's going to tie into what you were talking about with Super Mario Brothers. So I'm just going to open the case that I have them in. So this game right here is Golf. Very creative in the title. And again, there was no full box graphics. It was simply they had the title and then they had like one image from the game. That's what your character looks like in Golf. That's why they're called the black box games. Now, these are the first run of NES games. It was the first set. I believe that there was 12 of them. 12 or 21. It's something to do with those 2 numbers. I should know this, but I just off the top of my head, I don't know. Now, if you notice on the back, there is there's a code on the top. It says NESPGF, and it does have a barcode. There's an important thing for this. Now, you can also look at the seal of approval. Okay. Now, if you look at this box right here, first of all, the seal of approval is different. Now, that's a main thing for like collectors. They want the circle seal or they want the oval seal. The circle seal is the first run. Now, when I flip the box over, you're going to see the biggest difference. And you kind of alluded to this. I'll just hold this one. Thank you. So if you notice right here, that is a hang tab. It's built into the box. These games were not shrink wrapped. And again, I think Little Cash mentioned that a second ago. But here's the thing. If you look right here, you can see the void sticker. This is where the game was sealed. So stores would basically just have a box with one seal on it, and it was peeled off, and the people went to go and play it. Now, this game was clearly just put on a shelf. They did not actually hang it, because if they did, they would at the store, they just would have perforated that and just hung it on a peg. So this is actually in very good shape, all things considered. The hang tab was never punched. So as a collector, when we can, we do try to get the variants because we're crazy.
But you have to look too, like when you look at the value of what Golf is complete on like price charting, it's saying $47, but that may be a very large swing between the 2 versions. So if you're on eBay, you need to make sure that you're looking for the correct version that you want to find, because this version is going to be worth a lot more than the second run version or the later run version.
And going with that later run, I've got to check it in here. There's also a variation for NES games between what's called a 3-screw and a 5-screw. The very first run of games had 5 screw holes.
So that's how you also know that that game is really supposed to be with that box, because it will have the 5 screws in the back. And some of them, right, you can talk about what the inside is.
Some of them, they came directly from Japan because the system got pretty popular pretty quick once it actually got past its testing phase. So some of these are actually Japanese Famicom games inside the Nintendo North American box. So when you open it up, you actually will see sometimes a converter box that has the chip for the Japanese game and a little slip that converts it. Those can actually be taken apart, and you can use them to convert any Japanese game. We have a couple of them floating around, but that's basically one thing.
They're slightly heavier, but not enough that you may really notice unless you're holding 2 right at the same time, because it's just a very slight difference.
Right.
But those cartridges also are worth more money because they have that converter inside of the game.
Yeah, and often these are very common games. So one of the games that's in here is Gyromite. That came with this rod set. The game Gyromite, $5, $5 to $10 at most, and I'm sure that probably blew up too. But if you go to a store that's just selling them for the same price, just you weigh them, take a check, or bring a screwdriver with it.
Open up the back.
You can see the bottom. Yeah, $7.60 is what it's averaging.
Good job.
Yeah, that was a guess, but but yeah, it's just a couple different things about NES games. One of these days, we'd love to take you on a tour of our game room. But for right now, that's where we're at. Tomorrow, make sure to join us if you can for I Stream, You Stream. That's what we're going to be talking about, episode 2 of Loki on Disney+. Friday, we'll be doing Funko Royalty, like always, with Lord Cash, showing off his Funko Pops. Saturday is Mail Call Mail Time. Sunday is Call of the Wild. Monday, Crazy Card Collecting. Tuesday, Slam Nation. And then Wednesday, you're right back here with us on Game Room. Just
the Game Room.
The Game Room.
So, yes, thank you for watching. If you liked any of these games or learned a little something, definitely like, share, subscribe, spread the word of the nerd. And thanks for joining us. Oh, Lord Cash just popped in. We were is
this thing still on?
Yes, we're just wrapping up.
Yeah, we just gave the spiel for the whole week, and we're saying goodbye. Any last parting words?
I'm in Florida, and we had the power blip for a moment. So, yay, hurricane season! So I had to wait for my internet to boot.
Oh, no problem. I think you just froze. But, all right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Adios.
Bye. I pushed the button.